Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast. On today's show, we will be talking about unrealistic and realistic trade propositions for the Chicago White Sox here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. Welcome into the CHGO White Sox Podcast, coming to you live from Studio A of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, the full CHGO White Sox crew. That is Vinnie Duber in his lovely pizza-style CHGO shirt that diehards can now go check out and get 30% off over at the CHGO locker. You can also read his work at allchgo.com. The man in the middle is Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow us at CHGO, either underscore on some websites or dash on the other, White Sox, and you can follow us over there. We're being produced today by Lawrence Benedetto.
Hello, gentlemen. Did you know, Sean _W Anderson, that soon you will no longer be able to say Studio A in the West Loop, because we're changing the names of our studios.
Ooh.
So I have to say Studio East.
We're still debating, but yeah.
Studio 1.
East and West, I believe, are the two current.
Ooh. See, I would go Studio Lake and Studio O'Hare. That's what I would go with.
Lakeside, like maybe Lakeside Cherry.
Lakeside.
Later
in the show, Lawrence, we'll have a line he's ad read. You can bring that up again.
Madison, Wisconsin, because they're from Wisconsin.
That's that way, though.
Right. Don't tell them. I don't even know where we are.
That's like Rockford.
All right.
Wait, what was your one for the West? What did you say?
O'Hare.
Yeah.
How
about just Prairie?
Ooh.
Okay. On today's show, the CHGO White Sox show, we're going to be talking about unrealistic trade propositions that have been thrown out in the baseball media sphere, and then we'll be talking about realistic Garrett Crochet mock trades with Elijah Evans of Future Sox. Should be a fun show over this hour. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button like Ozzy's telling you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We had a fun show yesterday where Herb pounded his fist on the table for Ozzie Guillen's 13 to be retired, so you can go check out our shorts or the video on demand of that. Also, Sox Fest tickets are now for sale. I saw Melissa in our Die Hard Discord pick up her tickets. You could go listen to our 10-minute interview or so with Sheena Quinn, the senior director of public relations for the White Sox. She talked about what their vision for Sox Fest Live will look like. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing. Let's get into the rumors. Let's start off with Bob Nightengale. Bob Nightengale wrote in his Sunday newsletter, Luis Robert Jr. is the biggest gamble on the trade market. The White Sox will definitely trade ace Garrett Crochet this winter, but before they move him, they'd love to unload Robert. Robert, 27, is a huge talent that prompted the White Sox to give him a 6-year, $50 million contract 5 years ago, but he has never lived up to the hype. He simply can't stay healthy. Robert has played more than 100 games in just one of his 5 seasons, and now he'll be earning $15 million in his 6th and final season. Yet, if you gamble on Robert and win, you'll have the option of picking up his club option of $20 million in 2026 and again in 2027. One GM said, that guy is certainly intriguing, but they've got a really high price tag on him. You got to hope he finally stays healthy and can be the player everyone envisioned all along. But the White Sox are acting like he's some big star center fielder and asking for your top prospects. Before we get into that quote, because you may have thoughts on it, why do you think the White Sox would love to unload Robert first?
Yeah, that doesn't make really any sense to me, to be quite honest. I mean, I guess maybe they think they can get something for one guy and something for another guy. Well, who knows? But I don't understand why the word before was used in there. It would seem that you could trade those guys in any order you'd like, as long as especially the White Sox are shopping for talent. They're not necessarily looking to plug a hole on a major league roster, right? In an effort to contend, they're just looking for as much talent as they can possibly get. So I would think that it doesn't matter what order you trade these guys in, as long as you get the most volume of top-of-the-line talent you possibly can.
Yeah, and I don't think that the White Sox would be looking to trade Luis Robert Jr., but the word before kind of, throws me off too, because I don't think there's a market out there that is as fervent as the Garrett Crochet market, where probably all 29 other teams are like, yeah, only $3-4 million for next year, and $7, $8, $9 for the year after that. Bet money. That sounds great. He's a top of the line left-handed starter for Luis Robert, as Bob just put out. He's a superstar when he's healthy, and he's an also-ran when he's not. And he costs $15 million this year. And so I don't know why it would be before. I would guess there would be very few teams, firstly, needing a center fielder that are contenders, and then secondly, willing to take a gamble on Luis Robert Jr. before those teams I just mentioned would look to go and get Garrett Crochet.
Bob doing Luis Robert Jr. a little dirty as well, because he did play 145 games in 2023, and he played 100 games in 2024. So I would say, 2 of the 5 seasons.
And he played 50 in the 60-game season.
And he played 98 in 2022. So really, you could say that he's played 98 games in 4 of his 5 seasons, but hey, glass half empty. I don't know. I look at Luis Robert Jr. and I think of him as a star. There has not been a single year where he's put up negative WAR. There's obviously a clear hole in his game when it comes to sliders low and outside, but you're going to get consistent defense from him. We've seen highlight plays from him year in and year out. His speed's still there. 23 stolen bags last year to 6 caught stealing, and it seemed like even later into the year when he wasn't locked into the plate, he was still being aggressive on the bases. Like, you just hope that he turns around at the plate and becomes that 130 OPS plus. He's had 4 seasons of 100 greater OPS plus. Last year, the only year that he was at 87, 100 or below. I would be very disappointed if the White Sox weren't treating him like a star center fielder.
Yeah, I think everything that Bob wrote there is fair and a mostly accurate picture of what Robert's situation is at the moment. But that quote just threw me, because of course the White Sox should be treating him like they have a star center fielder. They do. Especially, obviously, health has played a big role. Obviously, the numbers this year were not good. No one's going to argue that. But the year before last, he was an MVP type player. You just read his OPS plus was 130. Remember the 38 home runs he had, all the slugging that he put up, one of the top marks in the American League. The guy is a star if he can just stay on the field and notably get things together here a little bit at the beginning of the 2025 season. I think the White Sox should have that high of an asking price for a guy who everybody in baseball has to realize that talent, right? I don't think anybody's in baseball being like, yeah, I don't know about this guy. Like, obviously, he's a multi-tool player at the very least, and you can start counting him out if things get turned around for him. But I just don't think you're going to see Luis Robert Jr. traded this offseason, because it is, as you mentioned, the lowest that he's been in terms of performance. Obviously, it is a what have you done for me lately kind of situation, but I don't think anybody in baseball and running a baseball ops department is stupid enough to think that Luis Robert Jr. is, and his 2023 season was some sort of mirage that something will never come back again. I think the White Sox obviously have a task in front of them to get him closer to that than he was in 2024. But if they can do that, he could be the hottest commodity at the trade deadline, or he could be the hottest trade commodity a year from now when we're talking about next year's hot stove.
Just think about those teams that can't necessarily afford the Juan Sotos of the world, or the teams that can't go up to the top of the market. Getting a Luis Robert, who could be a top of the market type of player, for only 15, 20, and 20. That's pretty good if you're going to be not, big time dealers. Like, if you're Seattle, you're not necessarily into the big time Soto sweepstakes or the Ohtani sweepstakes of last year, but you can probably get a Luis Robert and gamble that he's a silver slugger that he was last year, that he is an all-star candidate like he was last year, that he can be a gold glover like he was his rookie year, and you can see the improved defense he had last year. Yeah, that's a gamble I would take if I was another team, and all I have to do is give away a player that maybe be a star eventually. I mean, you might, balk at the price that the White Sox are asking for, but for a guy that might be a star, I think it's worth the roll of the dice.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many ways that I could talk myself into spending my entire farm on Luis Robert Jr. You look at his max exit velocity, and over the past 2 years, they have been down 113 and then 113.6. But you look at 2022, 2021, and 2020, his max exit velocities of 115.8, 117.7, and 117.8 were all in the top 1% of the league. And 113.6 Ain't bad, all right? So we'll take that. And his running, here's the thing that's kind of crazy. Luis Robert Jr. might be as fast as he was a 22-year-old. His sprint speed when he was 22, 29.1 feet per second. 26, 28.8. And that is his fastest since 2020. So
he's had 2 major leg injuries since then, too.
Right. And that's the crazy thing. Like, he played only 100 games because he hits a double in Kansas City in April, was it?
Very early. Yeah.
April, May.
First 2 weeks of the season. Yeah.
Rounding first base, and he comes up, with a limp leg. And I think it was an interior hip issue or thigh.
Somewhere around here.
Right? So the fact that he's still as fast as he is and isn't really declining in his speed, what are the reasons to talk yourself out of it? Just swing decisions. And Ryan Fuller, I bet that was one of the guys that Chris Getz had clearly in mind of, we got to help this guy make better decisions at the plate. What would his trade value look like if he does have 25 bombs at the trade deadline and he's winning the home run derby or doing what he did in Seattle again? I think Toronto should be very interested in him. You talk about people that might lose out on the Soto sweepstakes. They have Varsho in center currently. You move him to left. Varsho, Robert, and Springer as your outfield defense.
No balls are dropping in that outfield.
That ain't bad.
And you're probably going to be losing either or Vladimir Guerrero or Bo Bichette in this next year. So adding a guy who could be a superstar there would be nice.
You say, what would his trade value be if he got back to the kind of guy that he was 2 seasons ago? It would be a lot higher than Garrett Crochet's is right now. I can tell you that much. I mean, we're, and not wrongfully, treating Garrett Crochet like a star in the making, a guy who should command really, really big prospect return. Luis Robert Jr. is an everyday player with 2 years of control left you would say probably about an equally good bargain, right? Oh, because if he's doing what he's doing at an MVP level, and you're paying him $20 or fewer million a year, that's comparable to what you'd be getting Crochet at 10 or fewer for being a guy who could be a top of the league starter as a left-handed pitcher. So I think Chris Getz is probably thinking one day, be that the summer, be that next winter, he could cash in Luis Robert Jr. for a lot more than he might be able to cash in Garrett Crochet for this winter.
Just look at the people who are on the market around the same age and both had struggles in 2024. You got Luis Robert Jr., who's had a bad year, oft injured, whatever. $15 million price tag and with the 2 option years. Then you have Cody Bellinger, who was also on the trade block, $27 million for a team that's going to be acquiring him. And the Cubs are desperate to trade him. So which player would you rather have? You can have a guy in Luis Robert Jr. who I think his projectables are only going up because he's had the injuries. He's had the balls that he chases outside. Those things can be corrected. Cody Bellinger, $27 million, is not that player. And Luis Robert will never hit that number in these contract that he's already signed. So you getting, I think, both a value in Luis Robert Jr. and the market is kind of out there with Cody Bellinger being that guy that is probably the guy that's opposing him in the market where you can trade for him and not really give up a lot of players. So I think Luis Robert Jr., as Sage B says, is probably not at his zenith, but I hope the White Sox are acting as if he is because there's no reason to trade him if they don't get what they want.
Yeah, what? Do you want, also ran Cody Bellinger, who's like 30 years old, or do you want 27-year-old Luis Robert Jr., who probably still feels like he hasn't had his best season? Cody Bellinger has an MVP award on the shelf. He's got a World Series ring. What else does he have to, accomplish? Luis Robert Jr. is playing for this might be a contract year for him. Mercy. I mean, I'm talking myself into it. I'm with, sorry, I lost it right there. I think it was Vince saying if they trade him now for 50 cents on the dollar, it's because Uncle Jerry wants to really lower payroll. At least to that, Chris Getz talked about trading Luis Robert Jr., I think it was about a month ago, and he said, yeah, we're probably just going to keep him because we know that he's not at his peak value right now. So it does seem like the front office is at least, in line with that. If an offer comes that blows them away and is up to their value, we could see Robert be traded. But I think they're aware that they can probably fix him, have him have a little bit better of a showcase to start 2025, maybe not have that slip up in Kansas City, and they'll be able to get that value for him. We need to take a break. We're going to hit some more rumors after the break, but we got to let you know about our friends over at Empire here on the CHGO White Sox Podcast. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. That's why competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. You can check out their great samples with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will transform your room. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Again, all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO.
588-2300 Empire Today. Vinny, did you know that ComEd can help save businesses by becoming more energy efficient?
I did not know that, Herb.
Yep. The energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
Wow, that's a lot of percent. So what does a business have to do in order to get in on that, Herb?
I jumped you. Sorry about that, Vinny. Just sign up for a free facility assessment at comed.com/biz.
That sounds easy and affordable. So why aren't more businesses doing it?
Maybe they forgot the website, Vinny.
I see. Maybe they did. I'll repeat it a bunch of times so they remember it. ComEd.com/biz, 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 ComEd.com/biz.
I think they should get it by now.
Wait, what was it?
It was ComEd.com/biz.
Thanks.
Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings will vary by customer's energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program is funded in compliance with state law.
Wow. Thank you. All right. We are going to jump to the next rumor. And don't worry, Vince. We will talk about Alec Boehm in a second. There was also a video or episode we did about a week ago.
We went deep on the Alec Boehm situation.
We did.
Really talked about Boehm. There won't be too much newish on that, just probably more ranting alike. But let's go to the next rumor. ESPN's MLB insider Jeff Passan said while the White Sox haven't completely been stripped for parts, they're on their way, with Crochet primed to be moved, outfielder Andrew Benintendi available via trade, and center fielder Luis Robert Jr. destined to go at some point too. Even if they improve from their 121-loss season, the roster the White Sox are bound to field in 2025 will be a reasonable facsimile.
Yeah.
Damn it. Of a minor league team in a big league stadium. What was that?
You were right there.
Yeah, we were. Just a hair away. I thought I could be smart for a second, but alas, it reaches for my grips. All right, outfielder Andrew Benintendi available via trade.
I'm sure he is.
What else is new?
Yeah.
I mean, how unrealistic is this idea? I think the only way I've been able to talk myself into it are the proposed trades that I had where they take on Giancarlo Stanton's contract for the Yankees because then Benintendi can play left field. Stanton can't. I don't know why that would happen. And then the White Sox wouldn't even keep Stanton. They would just trade him to the Rays. It's a lot of money to take on, and it doesn't make any sense. Maybe the Diamondbacks where, you unload Jordan Montgomery's contract?
I don't even see them doing that. I think the only way you would see Andrew Benintendi get traded this offseason is if he's included alongside Garrett Crochet, is if there's a team that says, all right, we want them both. And yeah, we'll pay the money, but that means the prospects you're getting back are of less caliber than they would have had you just traded Crochet. I see Benintendi sticking around just because that contract is hard to move. I don't see that as a realistic thing for the White Sox to get somebody to come in and say, yeah, we'll pay that for Andrew Benintendi. Benintendi did some fine things in the second half. If he was making a very relatively little amount of money, you definitely have teams that would be interested in taking a flyer on him, I think, in a trade for a lower level prospect. Yeah, of course. Why not? But he's a guy that's making so much money that I don't think you can probably convince any team out there to take all that on when the production that he's turned in has been so poor. So again, I'm not saying that Benintendi is going to continue being as bad as he was the first season and a half that he was in a White Sox uniform, but I just don't see that money being moved in any easy fashion unless you, Chris Getz, decide, all right, the entire goal of trading Garrett Crochet changes from bringing in talent to help with this rebuild to getting rid of Andrew Benintendi's contract, and I don't see that happening.
Maybe if Andrew Benintendi was on his last year and it's only $15 million, you can possibly get the lowest level prospect back. But think about if you're a team who would be acquiring Andrew Benintendi. What are you getting? Not getting power. Yeah, he showed a little bit in the second half. You're not getting left field defense. You're not getting a lefty bat that just crushes righties. You're not getting anything that you're like, that is projectable. I can use that as a guy that will be a great lefty platoon with my regular righty platoon guy.
You're getting the third worst player in baseball since 2023.
Exactly.
And you're getting him for $15 million a year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's nothing there. You're like, why would you do this? This is terrible. Unless you're taking all the money, White Sox. Like, you're paying him all the money. Cool. We'll take him, and we'll just play him, and he's free. Great. That'll be awesome. But otherwise, you signed a bad contract. We're not going to bail you out by assuming that bad contract unless you're taking a good chunk of that. Then why would the White Sox do that to have him play somewhere else? It doesn't make sense. Just to open up a spot in left field so you can have other person play? Cool, but Jerry would be like, I've already paid money for Jeff Keppinger. I already paid money for Dallas Keuchel. I'm good on paying almost $50 million for Andrew Benintendi.
See, I think there needs to be something to really etch Andrew Benintendi's name into history. A statue might be too expensive, but Bobby Bonilla got his day. Andrew Benintendi should get his day. Maybe March 15th. Beware of the Ides of March, right? Every March 15th, Andrew Benintendi for the next 50 years gets $1 million. There's about 49 million left, so maybe it's 49 years.
Just cut him.
You guys gave me the idea of, having a $200 million budget or something like that. Like, what team can we build? $5 million of that is just going to buy out Benintendi. I don't see a way or a world that a team picks him up unless, again, there's a hatred in the heart of the owner for Jordan Montgomery and the Arizona Diamondbacks, himself calling himself an idiot for signing Jordan Montgomery. Like, maybe
but
that
then the
person,
White Sox don't get anything from that.
Well,
they still
no,
have to pay a ton of money for a guy that they don't want.
Right. The money's about similar. I think Montgomery makes about $4 million. Is the idea, though, that you could take Montgomery, who was so good in 2023, for the postseason. You get a little bit of an inning eater, and does he become the Eric Fetty of 2024? Like, I think that there's a possible way that you trust
very much.
You trust Bannister to flip Montgomery more than Fuller's ability to flip Benintendi. Here are the players since 2023 with a negative 30 defensive value. Andrew Benintendi, Shohei Ohtani, his teammate, not Ohtani's teammate, Benintendi's teammate, Andrew Vaughn, Nicholas Castellanos, Josh Bell, Marcelo Ozuna, Jorge Soler, Vladimir Guerrero, and Kyle Schwarber. Out of the players that have negative offensive value, Josh Bell, negative 5.7, Andrew Vaughn, negative 6.9, and Andrew Benintendi, negative 13.8. So he's the worst with the stick and with the glove. I just don't see a way that now that he's getting more and more expensive, that you can get any team to take him on. And I think that's about all I have to say.
Everyone on that list, I think, with the exception of Vaughn, has been an all-star? Yes?
I think Josh Bell has.
And they all and they all at least have contributed with their bat at some point, except for Vaughn. Yeah. And so you have a reason to have that player on your team. So, yeah, there's nothing Andrew Benintendi does. I don't care if he's like, well, I'm healthy now. Well, why haven't you shown it ever? Like,
well, but I mean, you brought up that he started to show it near the end of the year. Like, yeah. I mean, that seemingly was, from what he said, the healthiest that he started to feel. It seemed like he started pulling the ball, which was more of a direction. It's not like it was, out of nowhere. It did seem like, hey, Andrew Benintendi's finally starting to pull the ball. This is why he's hitting more home runs. If he can go and do that, maybe he can finally put together a decent season. It's just,
if he does,
the two first ones have been horrendous.
Yeah, if he does what he did in the second half for a full 2025. Then next year, when we're talking about this, even before and the trade deadline, yeah, I could see him getting moved. By then, contract would be less, and then it will be showing, okay, I've figured some things out. I could be useful for another team.
I think the best bit is after every trade deadline, Andrew Benintendi just hits 275, 346, 538, and hits 12 home runs. What if the only time that he plays well is when he knows he's safe and secure in Chicago? He doesn't play too well because then, he's got to go move and he's got to find a new city and, he's trying to build a life here in Chicago. He planned for 5 years in Chicago, right? Just tank his value completely, have a great second half, and then that way you don't get traded. No? All right.
I mean, he's doing it.
All right. Anyways, let's move on now to Garrett Crochet. Bob Nightengale did write a little bit about Garrett Crochet. We'll talk about that, and then we'll also talk about Jim Bowden writing on Garrett Crochet. And Elijah Evans of Future Sox will be joining us in about 5 minutes or so to talk about his mock trades that he wrote for Just Baseball. Bob Nightengale wrote that the Phillies have been shopping both Nicholas Castellanos and Alec Bohm, and they've spoken about Bohm and outfield prospect Justin Crawford and extensive trade talks with the Chicago White Sox for starter Garrett Crochet, but the White Sox are concerned with Bohm's struggles in the second half, posting a .681 OPS with just 4 home runs. What do we make of more Alec Bohm to the White Sox talk?
I mean, I think what we make of it is, man, the Phillies would really like to trade Alec Bohm. Certainly Justin Crawford is the type of prospect that Chris Getz would love to have as the centerpiece of a return package for Garrett Crochet. But Alec Bohm just does not make sense for the White Sox. Even if you are not harping on what he did in the second half last year and say, the guy's an all-star, the guy's a former top pick, he could become a great player, like, great. The White Sox are not going to trade a guy with 2 years of control for a guy with 2 years of control. Alec Bohm does not fit in the White Sox timeline for when they're going to be good again or when they are trying to be good again. That would be a complete waste of Garrett Crochet to get Alec Bohm back simply because of the timeline. So even before you talk about what you think of the player and what you think he could be and what he could contribute to a White Sox team, the White Sox are not going to be good in 2025. They might not be good in 2026. That's when you would have Alec Bohm for what is he going to do to help the White Sox if you were to acquire him. It would simply be wasting the opportunity to use Garrett Crochet to inject this organization with a ton of talent.
And besides all the stuff that you just said, which I'll add on to it, Bohm is going to be making much more money than Garrett Crochet is going to be making in arbitration.
$8+ million, I think.
So, yeah, like the White Sox are going to trade the better player for the more expensive player that only has the same amount of years left as the player you just traded away. Yeah, that sounds good. Stop doing it, Bob. Stop suggesting this stuff. Stop putting it out in there in the atmosphere because it doesn't make sense for the White Sox to do it at all. I don't care if they've had conversations. I'm sure the White Sox listen to Dave Dombrowski. It's like Alec Bohm and Justin Crawford. He's like, yeah, Crawford sounds good. Stop talking to me about Alec Bohm. Click. And hung up the phone. It's the 90s now. They got actual receiver.
Chris Getz has an old-timey rotary phone in his office.
Click.
If you're Getz, though, and your job does include calling people, do you not want that bit? I mean, it's Jerry's money. I mean, how much is a phone line? How much is a phone jack? There's got to be phone. It was made in 1990. There's a phone jack in guaranteed rate field.
There's internal. There's a what do you even call it? What's the opposite of a cell phone?
Landline.
Landline. There's a landline in the press box.
Yeah.
I can reach out and grab it.
There you go. If I'm Chris Getz, I'm finding the oldest phone that I can make and the best clicking
You
sound.
could slam it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm calling, my assistant GM for at least an hour. We're blocking off an hour.
You want one
just
of
to
those
do
ones
phone
that
calls.
has one earpiece and one mouthpiece?
If it's got a good click.
I think you got the one with the twirly.
So we can walk
cable.
around.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
so
then
you
you
just-
twist it around. Yeah, that seems more fun.
Chris Getz is just
He's-
pacing, talking
he's
to
like-
Dave Dombrowski.
He's like twisting his finger
He's like a
around
teenage
it,
girl. Like, oh my God, Dave, are you calling again? Oh my
You're calling on Alec
God.
Bohm again?
I don't want him.
You don't want him. He sucks.
Totally.
All right. To go to at least more Bohm coverage or Baum coverage, there was a review that said I don't know how to pronounce names, so
Great.
there you go. No, it was a long time ago. I just saw it again today. 3-team trade proposal. White Sox get the aforementioned Justin Crawford,
Okay.
Mick Abel, Eduardo Tate, who we'll talk about in a second,
All right.
Ty Pete, and Johnny Formello, which is a great name.
It's a lot.
The Phillies get Garrett Crochet, and the Mariners get Alec Bohm. This is from Jim Bowden's article in The Athletic. Jim said he liked the concept, although he gets the impression that the Phillies are more focused on acquiring an outfielder and a reliever than they are a starter. So are we wasting our time even talking about the Phillies here? Because that makes a lot more sense that the Mariners would get a third baseman than the White Sox taking on Bohm.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I think the Phillies have been mentioned as much as any other team, to be quite honest with you. I mean, yeah, they've got a really good starting rotation, but you can never have enough starting pitching if the Dodgers have shown us anything over the last couple of years. So I don't think it's ridiculous to be considering Philadelphia at all.
Yeah, I think that trade sounds better than the trade that we were talking with Bob, but I don't know if that works for the White Sox. I firstly don't know the caliber of the rest of those prospects coming from Seattle, but that sounds a little bit better than what the Bob Nightengale trade for Bohm and Crawford.
Yep. And the other things, we did have some more Bowden stuff. We're going to get to Elijah Evans in just a second. There were a lot of talks that, included the 3-team trade. It included a Mets package that was all right. The White Sox getting Drew Gilbert, Jet Williams, and then Luis Angel Acuna. But then there was like a weird one that the White Sox would get 3 major leaguers from the Red Sox, and then that the Orioles would have to give up one of their top 215 prospects in all of baseball.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, listen, Jim isn't reporting anything. He's answering fan questions. He's talking about speculative deals. That's fine. But I think when you're talking about what is realistic, to have a trade in which the White Sox don't get any prospects, that's the most unrealistic thing, even if those players are under relatively longer control. But you really got to look to guys who are going to be, I mean, listen, we've talked about them acquiring teenagers, right? I mean, this is a long-term rebuild. You want guys who maybe won't even be in the major leagues in the next year or two, but guys with really, really high upside. I think going to the tippy top of the prospect rankings might be a dicey proposition as well, but it could be different with every team. I just say look back to the Cease trade, and there's a lot that goes into this, but being realistic involves prospects first and foremost. Position player prospects maybe more than pitchers, but definitely not a package full of guys who are already in the major leagues. You got to look at guys who are going to be part of the rebuilt White Sox years down the road.
Just Boston's cast off on a team that didn't even make the playoffs. We don't want it. All right, we're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We got to let you know about our friends over at Family Farms. Their culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized taste buds since 1974. I love this read because I get to say tantalized taste buds. Join them, our friends over at Family Farms, on this flavorful adventure where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms. And the tradition continues. You can now find Family Farms bacon-wrapped chicken even easier. You can look for them in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burkhart's. If you're craving a taste of home without leaving yours, check out baconwrappedchicken.com or click on the link for our Amazon store, which also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage, and find out when new, amazing Cajun Nation flavors will become available with an authentic Louisiana bite. So experience the flavor that's become a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burkhart's, or on Amazon, and visit baconwrappedchicken.com for more.
We're 2 days away from Thanksgiving. It's getting cold outside. It's supposed to be freezing cold this weekend. I don't like that. But guess what? Leinenkugels has made sure that we can always have a summer mindset because summer shandy is available year-round. Maybe you're going to be grilling that turkey up on Thursday. Take a summer shandy with you. It'll be like you're having Thanksgiving dinner in August. Maybe you're going down to a tailgate for a football game. Take a summer shandy with you. It'll be like you're tailgating at a baseball game in the middle of the summer. It's perfect for any activity, and it makes you feel like it's summertime year-round. But hey, maybe you want a little bit more variety. Try a honey vice, try a berry vice, a lakeside cherry, a sunset wheat. Go up to Wisconsin and have yourself a Leine's Original. The folks at Leinenkugels have all those flavors and more, and they're all so delicious. So, flavor every moment with Leinenkugels. It is the official craft beer of the Chicago White Sox. Go to Leine.com/CHGO to find delivery options near you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugels pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Leinenkugels, flavor the moment, celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. All right, let's head over to our friend Elijah Evans. He is a writer for Future Sox and Just Baseball Media over on justbaseball.com. He wrote a article detailing 5 MLB trade offers the White Sox would take for Garrett Crochet. You can follow Elijah at ElijahEv8. What's up, Elijah? All right.
Can you?
What's up,
Yes.
fellas? I
There
appreciate
we
you
go.
having me on as always.
Yeah.
It's good to be here, and I like the way Vinny just described some of that because I was listening to you guys, and I think it's really important to consider what this package looks like because I think White Sox fans have this idea in their head, and the reality is the idea is probably not realistic. And at the end of the day, you've got to find a package that's balanced. I think what it's going to come down to is targeting, the Garrett Crochet trade is what's going to shape this offseason for the White Sox, right? There's a lot of other things that need to happen, but this deal is what's going to shape the 2025 season and what the direction is going to look like from here, right? You have to get hitting assets, but you have to get a variety. You need that one prospect that you can dream on having that high-end upside. You need that one really young prospect that can be that projectable piece that you think can be a long-term piece for you. And then ideally, you get a piece that can contribute to the Major League offense sooner than later, right? So the way I kind of structured this article and what I've just just been doing, looking through Crochet trades, is trying to just find a balance in a package that's realistic, but also gives the White Sox some upside to dream on.
Yeah, we have a natural here. What's up?
Absolutely. Elijah, I've been saying this for weeks now. I go, look to the Dylan Cease trade as a potential model for what the White Sox might get back for Crochet, at least in terms of how high on those top 100 lists those prospects are going to go. Do you agree? Do you think that Crochet and Cease get something somewhat similar in terms of prospects, or are White Sox fans who think they're going to get a top 10 guy, is that more realistic, or is that dreaming?
So Major League Baseball right now is heading in a direction where like we're not going to see those top guys get traded. When was the last top guy that got traded, right? If you look back at like even the Juan Soto trade to the Padres originally, right? James Wood is now become, one of the better prospects in baseball going into this past season. He was still only a top 25 or so prospect at that point. The last prospect that was ranked in the top like legit 5 was Yohan Moncada that got traded. And that was for Chris Sale, who at the time was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Garrett Crochet is exceptional. He's not getting a Chris Sale type of deal in terms of value because he's only been a starter for one season, because he has injury risk. There's a lot more factors that go into that. I think it's a Dylan Cease type deal. Obviously it's the hitting side, not the pitching side. I think that almost all, if not all but one of the prospects in this deal will be hitters, but it's a similar value. I think it could even be a little bit more. It's not going to be significantly more than that Cease deal, right? It's going to be, I think the ideal type of value is one piece that is a top 50 level piece, right? Another additional piece that is a good prospect, maybe even top 100, right? But not your elite top tier guy. And then a third, project upside piece of someone who's really young and has a lot of upside, but isn't, at that level of being a high end prospect just yet.
Do you think, I'm just kind of elaborating more on Vinny's question, is there a way that Crochet gets a little bit more than Cease, or do you think it's going to end up being fairly similar, just, 4 prospects and then Steven Wilson or something? Three prospects and Steven Wilson? What about Crochet makes him a little bit more intriguing to Cease? Because we were kind of puzzled about Cease's value because it seemed like he would be so intriguing. 33 starts every single year, second in a Cy Young Award. Crochet, there seems like there's a little bit more questions, but it does seem like there is just a little bit more value attached. Do you agree with that, or do you think that, maybe our judgment of Crochet is just a little bit off?
Yeah, I think it's close for sure. I think the difference there is that you saw Crochet coming off his best stuff right now, as opposed to Cease, where it was 1 year difference, right? So with Cease, it was like you had a year where he wasn't at his best when he actually hit the trade market and when he ended up getting dealt, as opposed to Crochet, where he just showed his absolute best right now, right? So I think that's the one difference you can kind of see there, is that he is coming off of his peak season as opposed to Cease, where he's coming off of what was somewhat worse, significantly worse, frankly, than his 2022 season.
And Elijah, when I use mock trades and people send them in, they're usually really unrealistic because the other team is sending you all their best prospects and you're just sending them your best player. Looking through your trades that you have sent to Just Baseball, it looks like there's some pain involved with a couple of these teams, and a couple of them I'm like, especially the Orioles trade that you have put out there. But why have we shifted from where you were just talking about not using your top players in your system to everybody in the industry is like, we don't do that anymore? Is it more of a collusion type of thing, or it's like they just realize those players have value and we're just going to keep them? It's more cost effective.
I just think there's the reality right now with Major League Baseball is that you have guys that are making more in arbitration and more early in their careers than ever, right? And the other fact of that is guys are signing extensions early too. So I think the ability to have affordable young players that can be legit impact MLB players is something that teams just don't want to pass up on, because especially for smaller market teams and the bigger market teams, you see a little bit more willingness to trade those guys. But for a team like the Orioles, it might change now with their new owner a little bit, but they're not going to be in on, a Corbin Burns, right? They're about to lose Corbin Burns because he's going to get priced out for them, as opposed to where, with a guy with them, right? They need that cheap contract talent, right? When you have a Samuel Basayo who can come up, he can be an piece for you at catcher, at first base, or it might be, you need to keep that around so that you can afford to do what you need to do within the margins to keep your players like Gunnar Henderson, like Adley Rutschman around in your organization. So I think just generally the baseball world is becoming one in which teams don't want to trade those top guys because they can have elite talent for a very cheap price, at least for a few years, while they figure out how to either sign those guys early to keep them around at an affordable price, or they figure out how to allocate resources differently to maintain a affordable but talented roster still.
We have all your trade packages here, so let's start going through them. You mentioned the Orioles, so let's start there. In your piece, you talked that the Orioles are a team that frustrates you. Do you think that Burns signing and him having a clear direction would give them a little bit more incentive to go out and get Crochet? I think a true scenario for the Orioles trading for Crochet involves Burns leaving, Santander re-signing, and then them being able to push in a little bit more prospects because they know at least Santander is going to be able to play some outfield spots. So you have Enrique Bradfield Jr., the 71st prospect on Just Baseball's Top 100, Dylan Beavers, an outfielder, left-hander Cade Povich, and then catcher Creed Williams. What do you make of these four, and why were these the right four that if Mike Elias offers this to Chris Getz is saying yes?
Yeah, so this one's tricky because I don't really like the Orioles as a trade partner, but they do make the most sense probably because to win, they need pitching to win. They continually refuse to actually trade their top assets. So I think, you look at a Samuel Basallo and a Kobe Mayo, these are two top 10 to 15 prospects in baseball. They want to find a way for those guys to be in their lineup, and they know that they're going to lose some of their veteran players in the near future. Even if they lose Santander too, you've got a Heston Kjerstad ready to take over that spot. So the O's are in a situation where, I think they already know they're losing Corbin Burns. They might not admit that yet, but I think the reality is they are going to be priced out of Corbin Burns, and they're going to need to find a way to get impact pitching, and they probably can't afford the top three pitchers on the market in Max Fried, Blake Snell, and Corbin Burns. So then you turn to how can we make a deal happen without our top two prospects and still get an impact pitcher? And the Orioles have the luxury where they have a lot of depth in their system. Another name to mention is Vance Honeycutt. I considered him and Beavers kind of here swapping out potentially as well. That was their first rounder this past year. But this trade package, it's the depth over a superstar upside, right? For this deal, the White Sox get three guys who can be legit major league pieces. I don't think there's a superstar in this package, which is why I probably like the upside of some of the other packages a little bit more. But Enrique Bradfield, table setter, he stole 74 bags this year in 108 games in the minors, right? So table setter, great contact, elite gold glove type upside at center field. That's the guy that you can replace Luis Robert with potentially. If you trade Robert, right, you've got an immediate elite defensive speed contact center fielder. Dylan Beavers, balanced guy, but be a piece in the near future. He could be in right field for the White Sox, right? And then Cade Povich is a guy you can slot him into your rotation for a Crochet and have another solid left-hander. He's not the upside of a Crochet, but he could be a back half of the rotation starter, right? So I think this package is each package is a little different, and I tried to angle it that way. But this package is the one where you get three pieces that you think can be consistent MLB players.
That deal looked to me like more of a quantity deal where. What would be the package? And I know there have been prospect hugging for Basallo and Mayo. What would be the package if they had either one of those guys?
Right.
As far as trading Garrett Crochet, would it just be that player for Garrett Crochet, or would it be that player and then another low-level guy?
It would be two, probably. It would be, a Basallo and one more guy. I think maybe you could push for a Beavers as just a Basallo Beavers straight up. Probably a little bit lower of a level than a Beavers, honestly, as that second piece. My issue with that trade is I think this is the same thing we'll talk about the Phillies. The Phillies have one prospect where you could make that prospect the headline piece, add a second piece to it, call it a day. And you could do that with a Basallo. But you're hedging a lot of this trade value on one player. And I don't think that's a risk the White Sox can afford to take. And I don't think these teams want to trade those top end guys anyways, because they want them to be parts of the big league lineup in the near future. So it's a tricky spot to be in because I think you can make a case for okay, let's try and get Samuel Basallo. This is a guy that could hit 30 homers every year in the big leagues. Yes, he's 20 years old and you're putting a ton of pressure from your biggest trade asset and your one big asset this offseason into one young player, which is a risky spot to be in.
Boston is a team that everybody's been talking about. Obviously, Law, if you want to throw up his Boston trade there. A lot of big leaguers being named as guys who could go, but they've got all these prospects. They got so many guys on all these top 100 lists. Why big leaguers? Obviously, Boston, it makes sense. They got plenty of guys to back them up. But why would the White Sox be interested in guys who are already at that major league level with what their timeline appears to be?
And just to read it real quick, the package you proposed, outfielder Willie Abreu, who just made his rookie year debut with the Red Sox, won a Gold Glove. Outfielder Braden Montgomery, who is the 77th Just Baseball prospect on the top 100, was just drafted in the 2024 draft. Shortstop Franklin Arias, and then left-hander Connolly Early.
Yeah, so this one is interesting because I think with this one, I hesitancy to have a year, but with Abreu, you're at least getting 5 years of control, right? He just had one season. You've got 5 full seasons of him, and then you get a guy in Brady Montgomery who kind of is that counterpoint, right? You get a big leaguer that can help your lineup now, but is still going to be a young, cheap asset for 4 to 5 years in an Abreu, right? And then Montgomery is the more high upside piece where you have another outfielder that can kind of be that potential Robert Benintendi replacement eventually in a year or two. Was definitely in play for the White Sox at the 5th overall pick this past year when they went with Hagen Smith, right? That's a guy that before he got hurt especially was like in that type of draft range, right? So you're basically getting a second first rounder from this past season who has a ton of upside, like the outfielder, and then you're getting a steady, already in the big leagues guy who you've established, who can be, the instant right fielder for the White Sox. But then the reason this package works and the reason I think the Red Sox are such a good match is that you pair those two with that upside guy. The Red Sox have a few guys in Yoelin Cespedes and Miguel Bleis, and then Franklin Arias, who's my favorite of those three, and that's why I went with him. And because you already had 2 outfielders, so I went with an infielder. But Arias is that super high upside infield, young, tooled out shortstop where that's the guy you dream on being a future star. There's a lot of time to go and a ton of things that can happen in the next 3-4 years for Arias, but he's that upside piece to pair with 2 big league caliber outfielders where you get that dream upside. And then Connolly Early was kind of an addition and a flyer, right? Fun left-handed arm. I tried to throw in a few flyer arms into these deals just because I think the White Sox are going to target bats, but considering how well they've done with developing lefties, it never hurts to add, an upside lefty as well.
Yeah, Connolly Early is a crazy name, so that'll roll right off the tongue. Hey, you guys want to feel old?
Yes.
Franklin Arias, born November 19th,
Happy birthday.
2005. Oh,
2005.
No, I guess it was, yeah.
It was just his birthday last week.
It was, yeah. Born after the 2005 White Sox World Series win.
Ridiculous.
Elijah, correct me if I'm wrong. Arias was seen as a glove first prospect, but I think the way that he's hit so far has surprised people in Double-A,
Right.
257, 331, 378. I know that's not great, but Double-A for an 18-year-old who's supposed to be glove first,
Single A, I believe, for him. But yeah.
What was that?
I think he was in single A this year, yeah.
Oh, single A. Did I say double? My bad. But still, single A for an 18-year-old, especially to be glove first.
Yeah.
Like, it does seem like the bat's like the one thing that just needs to come and really truly develop, but this could be a budding star.
This is somebody that I've heard very good reviews from people I've talked to in this world of prospects. And I think he's someone who, is definitely a legit shortstop, which does not hurt, right? Like, yes, glove first is a term that I think scares people off because in some people's minds, it limits upside. But if he's already an elite defensive shortstop potentially, and you've seen a lot of positive signs with the bat, he was dominating rookie ball, didn't have amazing numbers in single A, but was very much holding his own. He has a good plate approach. He's consistent at the plate. He takes his walks. He's shown some power, right? So if you've got a guy who you are very confident can stick at shortstop, and just from seeing him at 18 years old this past year, and you've seen some signs with the bat, I'm willing to take a chance on that upside personally.
The trade that I saw of yours that I liked the most, and I know people in the comments are going to go and bristle. What about Craig Kimbrell? What about Nick Madrigal? The Cubs. I mean, it's a natural partner where the Cubs don't want to spend money and also have the prospects the White Sox are looking for. You're proposing outfielder Owen Casey, the 36th Just Baseball prospect, Jefferson Rojas, 35th or 53rd Just Baseball prospect, and right-handed pitcher Jackson Wiggins. That to me seems like a good deal for the White Sox because they're getting 2 top 50 guys-ish and also a right-handed pitcher. What about these prospects would be good for you coming back for the White Sox?
Yeah, in all honesty, I think the Cubs are the second best fit here, aside from maybe the Red Sox, and possibly even the first best fit, aside from just the name. I think if they weren't in Chicago, we'd be talking about them as maybe the best fit for this trade because they want a pitcher, they want a star pitcher. They are going to get priced out of a Corbin Burns. I think there's a chance the Cubs make a play for Max Fried. I think that's the guy that it seems like if they're going to sign the big guy, that's maybe the one. But we've heard reports saying they're not likely to go for one of those top free agent pitchers. They're probably not going to spend that money. The Cubs have way too many outfielders. They're in a situation right now where they have no idea who to even start in their outfield. We're hearing Cody Bellinger trade rumors. Maybe they trade Ian Happ. Maybe they whatever. here's the solution. You've got an elite right fielder prospect in AAA who just hit 20 home runs, OPS over 800 in AAA this season. He's literally big league ready tomorrow. I think Owen Casey could start opening day for the White Sox in right field. I would feel really good about it. He's going to strike out, but he's a strong defender. He's got some speed. He's got some serious pop with the bat. Like, this is a guy that could be, a 20 to 30 homer a season guy if things go well for him. They don't have anywhere to play him, and he's ready to be in the big leagues. Find your pitcher, right? Center your package around an Owen Casey, right? And then you've got a variety of guys in the Cubs system that are younger, and they still have a lot of depth on the hitting side. They have a Matt Shaw who's ready to be an everyday infielder for them, but they have Horner and Swenson. So they're in a situation where they can afford to trade one of their younger guys as well, in addition to some of those older guys. So I do think this makes a ton of sense. Cubs, they are one of the best fits, honestly.
Yeah, and just to address the comments real quick, like if we could, we would extend Garrett Crochet tomorrow. We don't want to be trading Garrett Crochet.
Yes,
we saw how the Chris Sale trade played out, and he's still winning a Cy Young 10 years from now. I think, the 26-year-old Garrett Crochet, former first rounder, he does have a ton of potential. That's why we're talking about possible trades right now, because everyone in Major League Baseball wants him.
We're living in reality. We're not. We're living where we want to be. We're living where the White Sox are.
So, Elijah, I kind of want to put you into Chris Getz's shoes here, because you mentioned the Cubs one. I thought that was one of the better packages, if not the best. The other one was the Dodgers one. Catcher Dalton Rushing, the Just Baseball 23rd prospect out of your top 100. Shortstop Alex Freeland, and then shortstop Emil Morales. I feel like the whole point of trading Crochet at this point is to get the best of the best, right? To get the best prospect that you possibly can, the best headliner. It seems like Rushing is that. It seems like whether it's a catcher or first base, Dalton Rushing is going to be a major league hitter. I would be hitting this button, and I feel like if the Dodgers are offering Rushing, that might lead teams to offer a little bit more. Do you feel similarly? Is it just because the Dodgers, depth and of talent and prospect richness leads to their ability to offer a top 25 prospect? Take us through the Cubs versus Dodgers, and then why they would give up Rushing and why that might not affect the market like I think it would.
Yeah, I can see it affecting things to a degree, and I can see some people being a little more inclined to pony up for one of those higher end guys because of Rushing being available. Ultimately, what it comes down to is the Dodgers just won a World Series, and I think their mindset last year was like, oh, Rushing can still be a key piece for us, and I think he could be a key piece for them. The Dodgers have a catcher, a first baseman, and a DH for the next 9 years locked up, right? They have Freddie Freeman, they have Will Smith, they have Shohei Ohtani. None of them are going anywhere. They played Rushing in the outfield at the end of the season for about a month in AAA just to try and kind of see what it was like out there. In my opinion, the Dodgers kind of played that more as like a showcase for other teams than they did for their actual purposes. I still think they're going to re-sign Teoscar or fill that hole with another outfielder. And I ultimately think that Rushing is not an outfielder. I think there's a chance he could live out there and be okay. But I do think he's going to end up at first base and someone who can be a catcher sometimes. But with Rushing, you're banking on the bat. And I think the Dodgers just simply have enough controllable, locked up elite hitters where they don't need that bat in their lineup, and they don't really have a clear spot for him unless you're just forcing him into a corner outfield spot where he probably doesn't fit all that well. So ultimately, I think with the Dodgers, like, they can afford that. And now that they've kind of seen like their true upside, I think with the Dodgers, they've almost been a little hesitant in the past few years because they keep falling short. They're the best team in baseball, and they're going to be the best team in baseball for another 5 years, 10 years probably, right? So they have the luxury to say, hey, we have a pitching rotation that is really good, but it has some risk. We've got some injuries there. Let's get a guy that we feel can be another stud and provide some safety for Ohtani coming off Tommy John, for Glass now coming off an arm injury, for all these other guys that they've had hurt in the past few years, because you can never have enough pitching. So really, I just think the Dodgers are in a bucket of their own where they can afford to do whatever they want. And they still keep their two highest upside prospects in this deal in Josue De Paula and Zaire Hope, who I believe are their two, blue chip, young, superstar potential type guys. They don't have to trade either of those guys, and they can trade a guy in Rushing who they don't really have room for.
All right, there's one more. We're back to the Phillies. I just told everybody why the White Sox would have no interest in trading for Alec Boehm. You have them trading for Eduardo Tate, the number 52 prospect on your guys' list. Starlin Caba, the number 72 prospect on your guys' list. Gabriel Rincones Jr. and Michael Mercado. That's an outfielder and a right-handed pitcher. Tell us about that Phillies package that notably does not include a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah. makes no sense to me, to be honest. I can see kind of why people like it, but I just don't understand the perspective of Bohm there. I just don't think it makes sense. I think he is not the right fit for that type of trade. I think that he is just, it's a big leaguer with only a year left of ARB after this year. He hasn't been that great. He had a really rough second half. Third base guy when we have 3 guys competing for third base time already. I don't see it at all. I think it makes no sense, frankly. I think if you're going to trade Bohm in that deal, it has to be a 3-team deal where Bohm goes to another team and then that team sends more prospects back to the White Sox in that situation. That aside, right, the Phillies are just like the Orioles. They have a blue chip hitter in Aiden Miller who I don't think they want to trade. It is Dave Dombrowski. There's a world where you can do an Aiden Miller plus a second piece. That's a simple deal. You call it. The White Sox have a future star infielder, and you move from there. This is your upset swing, right? Eduardo Tait and Starling Caba, both, 8.
All right. It seems like Elijah Evans is frozen. So
looks like he could stick behind the plate, but that's further down the line. You can worry about that. This is the type of deal where you can get 2 elite, super young upside projects. It's the riskiest package of all of them because these guys are so young, but so these 2 are true star prospects in the next year or 2 from now. And the White Sox look back and they say, in 2 years from now, they say, hey, we've got 2 top 25 prospects knocking on the big league door because of this Garrett Crochet trade.
All right, we really do appreciate Elijah Evans joining us of Future Sox and Just Baseball. Before we let you go, is there one of those 5 that you would take right now? Is there one prospect that you would love to see included out of all of these teams or even off the board? I know there was some honorable mentions, but if you're Chris Getz and someone calls, who is the one prospect that immediately has you, saying yes? All right. It seems like he's frozen completely. All right. Never mind.
He gone.
Elijah Evans of Just Baseball and Future Sox. We appreciate him joining us. Make sure you go check out that full article at Just Baseball where he does go through all of those trade proposals, and we do appreciate his time. You can follow him at Elijah Ev 8. And he calls back in.
That's fine. We don't need
all right. Well, all right.
Just tell him.
I feel bad. All right, whatever. All right. Anyways, we're gonna wrap it up. What do you make of Elijah? Any of those trade packages stick out? I think he did a really good job of being realistic, which was the whole reason we.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are probably some ones in there that would really excite White Sox fans too. Obviously, the Cubs one jumps out, but I mean, even that Boston one, you're talking about even after Abreu, who I know has not excited folks as a centerpiece kind of thing. 2 of those guys in that package that he had were our MLB.com top 100 prospects. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're talking about a reigning Gold Glover in the major leagues and then 2 top 100 prospects on top of it. So I think there were some packages there that would excite White Sox fans. I don't know if even something like that is going to be super realistic, but we're going to find out what happens exactly and how comparable to what Chris Getz got for Dylan Cease is what it's going to look like when he gets something for Garrett Crochet.
Out of those 5, I would say Cubs, Boston, Dodgers, and then the other 2, Phillies and Orioles, in the 4th and 5th spots, because I think those Cubs, I'll take any of those 3 at the top, Cubs, Dodgers, or Boston, because they seem like those deals are comparable. They seem like you're going to get some good value coming back and players that that are projected to do well in the major leagues. But the Dalton Rushing point that you and Elijah made me salivate. Like, that guy's going to hit. He's going to be a hitter. Where's he going to play? In the lineup.
The one thing I don't hate is maybe I don't like Abreu, and I don't like Abreu as a prospect. And I understand he's an outfielder, and hey, an outfielder that has won a Gold Glove, he'd be able to play all right in right field. But I think I'd be able to talk myself a little bit more into Tristan Casas as the MLB player from the Red Sox, leading the Red Sox package. It's a 125 OPS plus. He obviously plays first base, but 6'4". It seems like he's a true hitter. And if you get a player that's similar to Rushing and a Montgomery, maybe the Red Sox package puts it ahead.
5 years left, 4 years left.
4 on Casas and 5 on Abreu.
Okay.
Casas was the 3rd place Rookie of the Year finisher in 2023.
Does Casas? How does that work? Because he hasn't played full years. It was 95 games or 27 games, 132.63. So his service time it might be a little bit over 5, maybe.
I mean, if you go to Fangraphs and look at their payroll, he has 4 years of control.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
that's where I got that from.
And that is our CHGO White Sox beat writer Vinnie Duber. All right, we're going to let you know about
capologist.
Yeah, / capologist. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us. If you do want to join the biggest and best community of Chicago sports fans, we want you to be a part of it. We got our diehard Black Friday sale going on currently that you can use a certain code for.
Yeah, currently it's already live for diehards.
It is.
So we have a Black Friday sale coming. Diehards.
Right now, can take advantage of it. 30% off up at CHGO Locker. You also get access to our CHGO Discord, and you get access to Vinny and all the rest of the writers' articles up at allchgo.com. That's Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. And I'm Sean Anderson, your CHGO White Sox host. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Live here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel.
We all silly like the mayor.